So I'm very happy to welcome on stage today Deborah. Deborah, you are Chief Sustainability Officer. I see Chief Marketing Officer here.
That too.
That too, which is great to have someone with the sustainability and marketing together at Sephora. We have Christine and Sarah here, representing Glow Recipe. You both are founders of these cosmetics brands. And Mathilde from Caudalie, a brand you also founded now a few years ago. So very happy to have you on stage. We will deep dive for the next 25 minutes around the beauty industry and how together you have partnered to increase the sustainability impact. Maybe not everyone in the audience is familiar with the personal care industry and the role that your companies play within that industry. So maybe a few words from each of you to explain what you do in that industry.
Sure, I can start. So Sephora is a leading worldwide beauty retailer focused on the prestige space. We operate over 3,000 stores in 35 markets and have more than 50,000 enthusiastic employees who are passionate about bringing more inspiring beauty to our consumers.
Mathilde.
Caudalie is a company that I created in France with my husband Bertrand 28 years ago. We are now 1,200 people around the world. We do 30% of our sales in France, the rest abroad. We're sold in Sephora in the US, in Asia, in Dubai, in Spain, and we're also a pharmacy brand.
Okay, so I'm Sarah, and this is my co-founder, Christine. We're relatively younger than Sephora and Caudalie, but we're really excited to be here today because we just launched in all of Europe with Sephora this month. So in a way, it's a celebration for us to be here in Paris. We launched our brand, Glow Recipe, which is all about clinically effective, fruit-forward, glowing skin, in 2017 in partnership with Sephora US. And from then, we rolled out to global markets, including Canada, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and then, as I mentioned, in all of Europe now as of this month. And we're really excited to be in this panel because sustainability is such a key topic and priority for us as well.
Thank you. Maybe starting with you, Deborah, can you tell us about this partnership or this initiative that Sephora is launching on the sustainability field?
Yeah, it's a really exciting time for us and also a nice reunion for us to be on stage with our brands. So Sephora has a mission to inspire more responsible beauty. We know that consumers are looking for more transparency from the beauty industry, but it can be a little bit tricky to navigate the space. I mean, I'm a consumer myself, and sometimes when I'm walking into a store, it can be overwhelming to see the more than 500 different brands that we have to sell. And so Sephora is actually going to be introducing next month 2 different seals that will highlight brands that can allow consumers to make choices that are aligned with their values. One seal we're calling the Clean at Sephora seal, and so it is a seal that represents brands who are meeting the highest regulatory standards, as well as also making a commitment to avoid certain ingredients. The second seal, which will probably be the focus of our conversation today, is our Planet Aware at Sephora seal. And for that seal, we're going to be highlighting brands that are making commitments across 4 sustainability topics, from ingredients to corporate commitments to packaging. And we will be able to share those brands with our consumers as well. And actually, that's a good example of partnership. They're not on stage with us today, but in creating those standards, we had to work with a range of different experts across the number of disciplines in sustainability who could challenge us on what is really possible today, but also encourage us to go towards a better future. And I'll let the ladies here actually explain how we work together on this program.
So we started this program with you, I guess it was in 2018.
That's right.
First version. And it was super interesting because it's all the life of Caudalie about being a clean, natural brand and sustainable. So we were clean before clean was cool. Back in 2006, I removed paraben, phenoxyethanol, phthalate, sodium lauryl sulfate, mineral oil, animal ingredients from all of my formulas. And I started creating this manifesto in which I added year after year ingredients that I didn't want to see at all in any of Caudalie formulas. So it's true that when you came to see me, it was already rooted into the Caudalie brand, and we worked together, and I gave you my manifesto and told you where I wanted to go.
It was a good challenge. We actually compared notes. Is this on your list? Is this on your list? And you actually introduced some new ideas to us.
Absolutely. We removed silicone, we removed PG, we removed phenoxyethanol, we removed many ingredients.
Great.
For Glow Recipe, so as Sarah said, sustainability has always been quite important to us. So having a retailer partner like Sephora create these seal standards, whether it's Clean at Sephora or Planet Aware, which goes even beyond Clean at Sephora, was incredibly helpful for us. In terms of formulation, we already prioritized natural ingredients and clean formulas, so that was a little easier. And in terms of packaging, we had initially invested in glass molds because we knew it'd be a little bit more easy to recycle, but we knew that there would be a long journey ahead, and what these seals provided for us as an indie brand was a kind of roadmap. It really helped us challenge ourselves. Even in the product inception stage, think about the manufacturers and the packaging vendors that we wanted to work with in the near term, but also the longer term. And then what's also really powerful about the seal is that it's global. So there's this very clear, concise way to explain to your customers globally that these are the standards that you're adhering to. And as we've rolled out into Europe, that seal is now in all of our merchandising, all of our kind of digital communications as well for, once again, a more cohesive communication, which I think is really powerful.
Thanks. Maybe just to give a sense also to the audience about how this Planet Aware at Sephora standard works through some examples.
Yeah, sure. So I'll set up a little bit of an understanding of what the standards are, and then the brands can actually fill in with real examples because it's more interesting that way. But I'll start with the science. Of course, we have to start with the science. So as I mentioned, this Planet Aware at Sephora seal requires brands to meet at least 30 different criteria across 4 different pillars. So the first pillar has to do with ingredient formulation and sourcing. So with this pillar, we're requiring brands to ban certain ingredients that have a high impact to the environment, but they also need to look to sustainable sourcing for ingredients such as palm oil or mica that might be more challenging. With the second pillar, we're actually looking at packaging. So for this pillar, we're looking for brands to make commitments to reduce packaging as much as possible, and then invest in more circular models, everything from refillables to recycling. How can they get the majority of their SKUs to be circular? The third pillar has to do with corporate commitments. So we're not only looking at the individual SKUs, but we care about the ethos of the entire brand. You've just heard our partners here are actually thinking about their entire brand and how they're going to build a more sustainable system. So with corporate commitments, we're honoring brands who have made a commitment to measuring their impact. They're all doing their carbon footprint, scope 1, 2, and 3, and also making commitments such as environmental giving or other forms of investments as a company. And then finally, the fourth pillar has to do with consumer transparency, because we can make all of the rules, but unless we engage consumers in the change, it could be all for naught. And so for this transparency pillar, we're looking for brands to actually disclose ingredients and share with consumers information around the environment, such as how to recycle their packages. But that's the standard and that's the theory, but the ideas are actually even more interesting.
Yeah, so for Glow Recipe, we can start with packaging and transparency first. Like Christine said, we've always been really passionate about sustainability from a packaging standpoint and all the 4 pillars, but just going deeper into the packaging aspect, most of our packaging is glass, and I would say at least 70% PCR is what they're made up of. They're all 100% recyclable. We also have plastic components, which are for relevant products that sometimes need portability or for safety reasons. So for that reason, we have SPF, a body product, and cleansers in plastic components, which are also around 30% PCR. And then also we have cartons, the paper cartons, which are used for all of our full-size and travel-size saleable items. They're 100% FSC certified, also 30% PCR. And in addition, we're making a lot of optimizations in terms of minimizing waste. So we removed wafer seals. We're also removing plastic windows. If you look at holiday sets or gift sets, some of the boxes have clear plastic windows where you can see the products through them. We decided to remove them all as part of the Planet Aware initiative as well. We're also removing metal spring that was in the pump. So again, everything's more eco-friendly. And like you said, circularity, reusability, and recyclability is very important for us as well. So we have an initiative to have at least our moisturizers, the staple in your skincare routine, completely refillable. And I actually brought this product with me here, which we recently introduced, and maybe you can show how the refillable works. But this is our pink juice moisturizer made with watermelon and hyaluronic acid. And while it's glass packaging on the outer side, the inside is 95% PCR plastic, and it's a refillable pod. And by using this each time, you're actually saving at least 60 to 70% carbon emissions, as well as 85% waste. So it's a huge saving, and I think as a brand that really cherishes and prioritizes our community, who's very much aligned in terms of the values with our brand, we want to continue to educate and talk about the importance of refillables, why you should use this, and why it makes you part of the sustainable journey.
And on the note of community, transparency is also incredibly important to us as a social-driven brand. And we try to make the process as easy and as transparent for all of our community members. So every year we release a comprehensive sustainability report that shows our progress to date, where we want to make further improvements, and kind of involve them in the journey, because that customer buy-in is so important. But we also do it at the point of sale, meaning the actual product carton, when you take it home, you undo it. There's a QR code that links to the page to talk about all of the things that Sarah mentioned around which components need to be washed out, placed in which recycling bin, and all the details you would need for that circularity process. But if that's too much, we do also work with Pack Collective, which is an organization that Sephora works with as well, to have an envelope send-back program. And on our social media, we consistently speak about this, but also the fact that every Sephora store also has a recycling bin. So you're really getting an omni-channel experience. And we believe the sharing is so important because with some of the optimizations that were mentioned earlier, one of them was a smaller carton size. So we reduced our carton size anywhere between 10 to 30% over the last couple of years, to make sure that we were using as little paper as possible. But when the customer sees this at the shelf, the product looks smaller. So that's a great example of really involving your community and transparent communication around why these decisions were made intentionally, and then the implications it has for them and the brand.
And for the ingredients and the formula, all the products Caudalie sold at Sephora are 95% minimum natural ingredients, and they all are super clean. We have this long no list of 73 ingredients now that we don't use in our formula, either because they are potential hormonal disruptor, or because they are irritating, or because they could be harmful for the environment, non-biodegradable, from animal origin, for example. So this is a long list that we created. We also look closely at what Yuka is doing now, because it's true that we are following the same path. And as for giving back and commitment of the company, in 2012, we decided that we would give back, and we had a conversation with Yvon Chouinard, founder of Patagonia Sport Gear. And Yvon told us that he created the 1% for the planet, and it was the best decision of his life. And we decided to join. It was the year when they were launching it in France. And since then, we've been giving back 1% of our revenues each year. And we decided that with this money, we would plant trees. So approximately, it's 1 million trees per year. We've been planting 11 million trees and counting, and we're super proud of this initiative. So we plant in France, we plant in Europe, we plant in the US, we plant in Asia, in many different regions. And the second very big initiative, we believe that carbon is important, capturing carbon is important, but also, unfortunately, there is still plastic in our cosmetic packaging. And even though I want to remove completely plastic, I want to walk away from plastic, there is still plastic. Even though we're using better plastic, lighter plastic, sugarcane plastic, or PCR, there is still plastic. So we decided in 2020 that we would collect the same amount of plastic that we're using. And we do that in Indonesia with Tristan Lecomte. And each year, we are collecting the same amount of plastic than we are using. and we're recycling it and offering it under the form of bricks to the local population there.
Thank you, Mathilde. Very quickly, also for the sake of time, I think it's clear and it helps us to understand how you have been designing and how this has impacted, this label, your products and the brands. Very concretely, maybe for you, Deborah, how will this show up in Sephora retail or e-commerce?
That's right. So it was a 2-year development process, but we are now just able to bring it to the consumer. So it's showing up in a store near you. It will arrive in North America and in Europe in April. And then we are going to scale this program because it is a global set of standards around the world, ending in China in 2025. As of this speech today, we have more than 130 Clean at Sephora brands and 40 Planet Aware at Sephora brands.
And how do you see such initiative really bring impact at scale in your industry?
Yeah, I mean, we really aspire to give consumers transparency into the choices they're making, but also hopefully move our brand community forward along with us in the journey.
One question that often comes when these labels are built is also the tension you may have or the trade-off, let's say, between pushing sustainability and delivering the profits, the business, and so on. When thinking about this kind of project, how do you reconcile the two dimensions, the business one and the sustainability one?
Yeah, I can start and maybe the rest can fill in. Already I mentioned that there are about 500 different brands at Sephora, and only 40 of them are Planet Aware. So already we're talking about an inherent tension between breadth and scale versus actually setting high standards for ourselves. And we actually had a lot of conversations as a team about how we were going to set the level. We wanted something that we could all aspire to, but we also need to make sure that we can, have brands participate. So in the end, we decided we were going to set tough standards, and brands that could engage now, we warmly welcome today, and that brands that couldn't, we would continue to educate, inform, and hopefully they could join us in the journey at a future date.
Pre-COVID, we have been working with other brands. There were five of us, and we created We Are Allies. And our green packaging engineers would reunite, and we would share the best practices. And this is how we ended up with packaging which is refillable and or recyclable and or PCR, recycled.
So for us, I think the tension might also exist not only between brands or the industry, but also with the customer, because they think often sustainability is an inconvenient or more expensive choice or the harder choice. And I think it's our job as brands to help educate that that's not the case. So we do spend a lot of time, especially on social, educating why it can be a fun, a surprise and delight moment, really depending on the gesture. And a good example of it is a lot of our glass bottles were just organically being upcycled on social media, and people were putting flowers in them or their barrettes or different ways to reuse and give this bottle a new life. And I think that's a good example for us as a brand to kind of disseminate, because that once again makes this journey more joyful, more easy. We have the same kind of experience with people painting our moisturizers and calling them forever moisturizers, because the jar will be with you forever. So it's a little extra step that makes the journey a little bit more cohesive and inclusive of everyone.
Thank you. And actually, my last question is for you, Mathilde, Christine, and Sarah, really about maybe some advice you could give to other organizations who want also to embark in such a journey to elevate their sustainability standards.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty challenging journey, to say the least, and it's never going to end. So you have to really anticipate that this is going to be a long one. But I would say a few things. First, find the right partner, and what I mean by that is it could be a retailer, it could be your supplier or manufacturer that are aligned in terms of being environmentally conscious and really thinking about sustainability as a top value. And I think that really helps to synergize what you're trying to communicate and amplify that message, but also with your supplier and your manufacturer, they can really help from the very briefing stage understand what your goal is, what your mission is, and come to you on the table with, let's say, farm practicing that's like great for the formulations when you're sourcing ingredients, or manufacturers that are more energy efficient so that you're minimizing waste. So I think there is a very fundamental starting point that can help you with that journey. And then secondly, ask for advice and expertise. Deborah mentioned that she worked with a lot of experts with the Planet Aware Seal. But this is a space that can be very confusing, and there's a lot of information. So anyone that's just starting this entrepreneurial journey with this passion, make sure that you have a tribe of people that you can go to and ask for mentorship and expertise. And then lastly, I think building an environmentally conscious community is very important too. And that's something that really helped build and shape our brand as well. It's been such a key driver for our growth and success so far to really have this open dialogue with our community and keep them updated on all the progress that we're making. And no small step is too small.
Just do it. You figure out how to. It's the only way to go.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for sharing the insights and your experience, the challenges and the solutions as well throughout the journey. And I'm sure we will continue to hear about both the label and the initiatives of your brands moving forward. Thank you.